Hello everyone, David Lang from Israeli Call here. Now, social media can be a real cesspool, and I think this is truest of Twitter. Anti-Semites run riot. Jews and other minorities are targeted and taunted all the time. It's really not a nice place. I don't find it to be a nice place at all. But there are some beacons of light, and my next guest is one of those beacons of light. Thani Al Shirawi is a successful Emirati businessman with 3 kids who I've been speaking to for quite a while now. He's an avid reader of geopolitical issues and history. And he's also someone that makes a concerted effort to expand his network against cultural divides. Thani Achi, Boker Tov, how are you doing?
Thank you very much, David. Boker Tov to you too. Sabah al khair. Thank you, David. It was a very nice introduction, and I'm very happy that at last I get a chance to do this with you.
Yeah, at last. I mean,
Yeah.
We've been speaking for a long time, and this
Yes.
is the first time we're actually speaking. Well, besides, we did actually speak last week to set this whole
Yes.
thing up. Let's
Yes,
be
we
truthful. But this is
We
the
did.
first time we're going to, in front of an audience, get into a lot of issues. But first of all, I wanted to ask you, do you actually realize how long we've been speaking to on Twitter, each other on Twitter for?
If I'm not wrong, we've been speaking for a bit over 6 years.
You're wrong. Guess what?
How long then?
I did my research, so I also
Yes.
might have said something like this. I surprised myself. It's been over 10 years.
Wow. Wow. So this means because I've been on Twitter, I got my 11th anniversary tweet from Twitter a few months back. So this means after 1 year in Twitter, we met each other. It's very
It does
nice.
mean
It's
that.
very nice. Yes, it is.
So I'm guessing you're not going to remember the very first tweets that you tweeted to me.
No. I'll have to be honest with you. No, I don't remember.
If I'm honest with you, and I'm always honest with you, I don't remember
Yes.
either. Oh, I didn't remember,
Yes.
but I did my research. I
Yes.
looked,
Okay.
and your first tweet to me, as far as I can see, was if you could have the autograph of one person in history, who would it be? And it was actually a response to, I guess, a tweet of mine, which for some reason is deleted. I don't know why. But let me just ask you that. I'm going to put that back to you just to, fill the circle. If you could have the autograph of one person from history, who would it be?
See, time changes, to be honest. But now I would say with what I'm reading now and what I'm going through now, it will be Abraham, the Prophet Abraham.
Wow.
Yeah.
Expand on that.
See, the thing is because, actually, a few days back, I was reading the Quran, and there was a phrase about the 3 guests that come to Prophet Abraham, and they promised him that he will have his son Isaac from Sarah, and Sarah was very old, and she was behind the tent, and she heard them, and she didn't giggle. I don't know how it's the right word. She giggled, but in a very polite way, that I am very old. How will I be pregnant? And the 3 guests actually heard her and told Abraham, if God wants anything to happen, it will happen. Okay, so that also with this geopolitical thing that, and I've studied, unfortunately, I haven't studied enough about Judaism, but what I know about Judaism and Islam, we have more in common than Christianity. And the 3 Abrahamic religion that we can so coexist, if you go deep, or at least the depth I've been to, you will not believe, I might be just putting an arbitrary percentage, but between 9 to 95%, we are saying the same thing. When it comes to faith, we are saying the same thing. Okay, we might just approach it in a different way, but if you go to the substance, it's the same. It's
interesting that it's interesting that you took that quote from the Quran, because it actually completely validates what you're saying. Because when I heard you now, it's like you're giving a lesson in the Torah, because we also learn exactly that incident. Actually, Sarah was reproached by Abraham for the laugh. Also, God reproached her for not having faith in that sense.
Yes.
But the story is actually the same story that we learn in our Torah. So actually, what you just said actually completely confirms your subsequent point.
Yes, because I feel that with using that we all united Abraham, we can use that as an approach for all people, or at least the Arabs, and I would say the Muslims and the Jews who have been violent to each other or were in the state of violence, instead of saying who was violent and who started, and let's not go into that at this moment, who have been in hostile to each other, let us talk about the things that we are in common. Let us leave our differences till the end, because if we talk about things that we have in common, we will approach our differences peacefully. But if we do it the other way around, no. If you know what I mean. So if we agree and hug each other and shake hands on the things that we are in agreement with and we have in common, then it will be easier to discuss the differences. Yes, we do have differences. We do have points that have to be resolved sooner or later. I hope sooner. But let us at least sit down on the things that we agree on.
I love the message, and I completely agree with you. Love it. But let's just back up a little bit before we get into the nitty gritty. And please tell the audience a bit about your background.
Okay. My name is Thani Al Shirawi. I'm 44 years old. I am one of 7, and I am number 7. I'm the youngest. I was brought up in a house that I was taught to be open-minded, not guided to which path I should take. We should always be open-minded. So I was always reading about religions, and actually, I remember the story that I didn't tell you last time, but I think it will be very nice. And my mother says, I love history because of that incident. As a kid, she was watching the 10 Commandments, and I was like 3 or 4, something like that. She was watching the 10 Commandments. And when the Pharaoh's wife in that movie, I don't know if you remember that movie with Charlton Heston.
Sure.
When Pharaoh's wife in the Quran, her name is Asya. When the Pharaoh's wife holds Moses for the first time, and she holds him up and says, Moses, Moses. She says, I kept on repeating it for a while. I got stuck on it, Moses, Moses. And the 10 Commandments was one of, I have to say, it's the movie that made me love history and made me open to all religions and all ideas. I need to study and understand. Yes, in Islam, to be honest, if you go to the substance of Islam, we were taught to respect all religions, and especially the Abrahamic religions. We are now leave the interpretation that unfortunately we hear these days, that I would say a lot of them are foreign to us. Learning Islam, that we have to be close, and the 10 Commandments, that was, I would say, my first introduction to another religion. And Moses is regarded a lot in the Quran and respected a lot in the Quran. A lot of the stories are in the Quran about Moses, and God also sent some messages about incidents with Moses. And that was my first, as a kid, that was my first bridge to other religions, and especially Judaism. And okay, now going back to myself, and I want to hold this thought, but I'll come back to it. I grew up in public school. I didn't go to private school. My parents at that time thought that public school, because private school had just started, they felt that public school had better education. I would agree when it comes to science, but unfortunately, some of them were good. I cannot use the word unfortunately. Most of the teachers were Palestinians, and a lot of them were from what they taught us, or what we call Palestine 48, which is Israel. They either went when they went to Jordan, then from Jordan they came to the Gulf, or from Lebanon. These guys always taught us the evil part, the bad part. Of course, in any struggle, there is good stories and bad stories and ugly stories. Instead of mentioning and teaching us the good stories, and yes, they might have been a victim of a bad story, or maybe there was a victim of a bad choice. Let us also give that. They might have decided to leave even if nobody asked them to leave, and maybe they left maybe because they were pushed out. We were not there. I was not there to judge why did they leave, but they never ever told us the good side. They never ever told us the bright side. So I'll have to confess, I was brought up in a hostile environment when it comes to school. We were chanting pro-Palestine chants in school.
You also
yeah.
did that? Yeah.
Yes. I'll have to admit, I'm ashamed of it now, but I will not blame myself because I didn't know better.
You didn't know better, right?
Yeah, I didn't know better. So until 1990, where I was in 10th grade, and in 1990 was a turning point for the United Arab Emirates and the Gulf countries. In Palestine, if we go back into history, until 1990, most of the schools were built by Gulf money. Most of the hospitals were built by Gulf money. Most of the houses were built by Gulf money. Maybe all of that money did not go to schools and to or Fatah or PLO. Yeah. Or PLO, any one of them, okay. But we were brought up to love the Palestinians. We were brought up that we will help the Palestinians. It's our duty.
Wait, can I stop you there?
Of course.
Was it really being brought up to love them, or was it more to hate the Israelis/Jews?
No, it was more to love them. I have to.
It was
more to love them and to help them against the Jews. Okay, I mean, I will not sugarcoat it. I will say it. I will say how it is. 1990, when Saddam invaded Kuwait, and the PLO and Arafat sided with Saddam. That was the turning point when the Gulf countries felt, wait a minute. We've paid for your livelihood, and now you join our enemy because he threw one rocket or few rockets on Israel. And we all know in the Arab world, and especially at that time, if you want to be famous, if you want to be loved, you attack Israel, either verbally or physically. Then automatically you become a hero. So Saddam was smart. In order to get the Arab support, he knew he cannot attack Israel. His rockets or his Scud missiles that were launched on Israel was for the Arab support, was not actually to hit the Israelis. That was not his goal. His goal was the Arab support against the Gulf countries. That was a turning point. At that time, even something I didn't mention, we had something that it was very small, $27 a year. It was a Palestine tax. It was called Palestine tax.
Really?
Yeah, and that every company had to pay $27 a year towards the Palestinian cause.
I've never heard of this before in my life.
Yeah, it's $27.
Amazing. Wow.
Yeah, which stopped in 1990. In 1990, that tax was taken away, and it never started again. Anyways,
Wow.
in 1990, when I had Palestinian friends that I considered them as brothers sitting next to me in school, brought up with them, suddenly they are pro-Saddam against me. We've been playing with each other since grade 1, and now that was, I wouldn't say I hated them, but that was like, why do they hate Israel so much that they made them hate their friends? Do you see my point?
Absolutely.
I mean, if somebody who's sitting next to you all day long, since grade 1, you know him for 10 years, we've played with each other. I've been to his house. He's been to my house. I know his family. He knows my family. And suddenly he sees our values. He sees how supportive we are to his cause. And now he goes pro-Saddam. He can't see that Saddam is just doing this for show. So that was I would say, a turning point. And to be honest, I was also brought up in a house that we respected Jews. In particular, we always thought that Jews were better educated. They were, most of the scientists were and are from the Jewish faith. And they are smart businessmen. I wouldn't call that, and one of the, somebody said, if you call Jews as bankers or as good bankers, he'll consider that anti-Semitic.
It depends on the context. It's the context.
Yeah, I know, of course. I say no, on the contrary, I would love to be a smart banker. I would love to be. No, it's not. If the guy is smart, he's smart, regardless of what religion or what color he is. But of course, I agree with you in the context. But I would say we all respected them. We always respected the Israeli government, that they are more committed to the cause than the Arab neighbors. The Arab neighbors used the cause for support, used the cause to get to the seat of the top. And of course, when we had a joke until the until the Arab Spring or the Arab Autumn, if whatever you want to call it, that only God can change an Arab president, not the people. Because, they stay, when they reach power, they stay until they die. So only God can change them. But having said that, that made, and of course, when I went to the States, and I studied there, and I met American Jews, I met Israeli Jews, and that made me see even more that they're like me and I'm like them. There is no difference. They have a different faiths like us. There are some that are religious, some of them that are not religious, some of them that eat pork, some of them that don't eat pork. Like any other nation, there is no difference. There is no difference. And there was one Israeli that I became close to. We were studying together. We were friends, and we were talking to each other about what we were taught in school and what we were and how we are. Again, how do we feel? How do we feel? And I always felt it should be not only from the government, from the people. From us people, we should be like me and you. We should be closer to each other, and we need more people like us. And that is, I would say, if I go back to what I said earlier, that Moses and the Abrahamic faith, that made me wanting to know more and be closer to what we call, even when we Muslims, when we refer to the Jews, we call them our cousins. Because what we are the sons of Ishmael, and you're the sons of Isaac. So we always refer to the Jews as cousins. So I said, I wanted to be close to my cousins. I want to learn about my cousins. I want to know more about my cousins. And when Twitter started, it was a tool. It was a tool to see. And then I saw a lot of types of Jews, but most of them were like you. believes in their faith, believes in their cause, but want to talk to the other side, which is okay. Which is okay. We all have our political views. We all have our opinions, and we are entitled. Not only we are entitled, we should have an opinion. It's like I think Churchill said: if you have enemies, then you stand for something. Okay, so yes, we need to have opinions, or we would have been a piece of furniture if you just don't have an opinion. So that is one that I made it a point to get closer to I would say to people with the Jewish faith. I wouldn't want to call them Jews because sometimes the word Jews now has been misused. Again, it depends on the context. It depends on the context. But again, with the Jewish people that follow the Jewish faith, I want to be closer to them. And plus, I am pro-peace. I do not want to fight. I believe in the wars. There are no winners, regardless of who might have had a battle victory. But in the war, there are no winners because there are deaths on both sides. Go and even the side that won, go to the mother that lost her son and tell her we won. She'll be happy at least that her son or daughter died for the cause. But again, you cannot tell a parent that they lost a child. And I love my kids so much. I love my kids so much. My kids, all of them, my nephews, my cousins, everybody, okay? I wouldn't want to lose them for war. So that's why let us sit down with each other. And as I said, we have more in common. Let us agree on the things that we are in common with. And then let us iron out the differences.
Yeah, absolutely. I love your message. I love what you're about, Thani.
Thank you.
But unfortunately, you know, it's crazy. Your views are quite unpopular, especially in this neighborhood and also on Twitter, because coexistence is actually, I wouldn't say, yeah, like out of fashion. I don't know if it was ever in fashion. It's really crazy, as you know. But you actually tweet and you post everything in your own name. You're proud of it, of course, as you should be, and with your own picture. And I wanted to know if you receive any pushback, any threats, intimidation because of these views, which actually should be applauded by everyone.
I wouldn't say I received any threats, no. But I did receive, I lost a lot of my followers. I got some messages that I am being brainwashed by the Jews, or brainwashed by the Zionist Freemasons, just
Zionists,
okay, by the Freemasons, and my answer is very clear. I respect your opinion, and I'm entitled of mine. I am not been affected by anybody. I've been affected by what I feel, and I tweet what I feel. And sometimes I think twice before because I think twice before I tweet, because I make sure that my tweet doesn't upset anybody, because sometimes my reason of tweet is to bring people closer to each other. So sometimes I try to make sure I use words, or I pick words to make sure that I don't insult, belittle, or upset anybody. And also, I believe in something that even if you have a different opinion, again, not going to the religion, we have a teaching from the Prophet that we need to give people 77 reasons before we build a distance between them. You have to give them 77 reasons. Why did they do that action? Why did they do that? You have to give them 77 reasons. I mean, of course, 77 reasons which was a connotation of, for God's sake, forgive them, for God's sake, be closer to them. I mean, how can you get 77 reasons? And if you really have 77 reasons, you really don't want to be next to that person.
Right. Well, it's really interesting listening to this. I didn't know about the 77, but like, I don't know if you know this, but in Judaism, the number 7 is like hugely significant. 7 is the day of the Shabbat.
Yes.
7 is a godly number in Judaism. So when you're telling me 7,
Yes.
I'm listening to this, and I've really only heard about this for the first time. It's like, wow, that can't be a coincidence. Obviously, there's this connection that we have in our faiths,
Of course.
manifest in different ways, but you can see that there's an influence there, and it's really heartening to see. It's definitely heartening to hear what you're saying right now.
Definitely. I mean, thank you very much. And I want more people to come closer to us and be like us. You're entitled to your opinion. I'm entitled of mine. They might not be the same, but this doesn't mean that we cannot discuss it academically, objectively, over a cup of coffee, cup of tea, and discussing it. And maybe it's people like us that will reach a compromise. Unfortunately, I hate the word compromise, but in peace, this is inevitable. We like it or not. And sometimes we need to find something which is not a compromise.
Right, right.
Both accept.
Yeah. So obviously you've been open-minded, you were brought up that way,
yeah.
and you've held these views, and it probably hasn't always been popular. But what I'm wondering is, because our countries have become, there's been a rapprochement between our two countries, mainly due to the threat of Iran, but there's probably been a lot of behind-the-scenes diplomacy as well in terms of shared interests besides Iran. Have you found that there's been a shift in attitudes amongst your peers, people that you talk to on a day-to-day basis towards Israel?
First of all, I think the problem with Iran is a blessing in disguise. While economically we've been affected a lot, because until the sanctions in Iran, the United Arab Emirates, and especially Dubai, was the biggest trade hub for the Iranians. And it's been historically like that since before the United Arab Emirates was founded. The ports of the United Arab Emirates and Dubai in particular were always filled by Iranian merchants all through history, Iranians and Indian merchants all through history. And until, I would say, even during the Gulf War, the Iranians used to come and do business here. A lot of the Iranians even fled, who were living on the borders, who had a bit of money, fled Iran and came and lived in Dubai, because in Dubai we are a open country. Islam is the faith here, and but you find churches, you find mosques for all sects of Islam, you find churches for all sects of Christianity. We have a Hindu temple, Buddhist temple, for everybody, and now also we have a synagogue. Okay, so they felt that Dubai was an open place where you don't need to cover. You can drink if you want. If you don't drink, you don't go to the bars. It's a free country, so they chose Dubai. So it's a blessing in disguise, I would say, the problem that brought these two closer to each other. But I have to say, while a lot of my friends might not share the same views when it comes to the Palestinian cause, but they share that the Israelis are more committed to their cause and more committed to their country than the Arabs themselves. That is the view. Yeah, we respect, for God's sake, we all know and admit it's the only democracy. It's the only democracy in the Middle East. In which Arab country you will find that a president will be going to jail because of sexual harassment?
Yeah, okay. We should be proud. We should be proud of that. I mean, in a way, we can be proud of the rule of law.
Of course. Right. Of course. I mean, everybody is the same. And even Ehud Olmert, when he was sentenced, and the first thing they found that the bribe was actually an upgrade. That was what opened the Pandora's box, was an upgrade. They said, at that time you were not an official. Why did you fly first class? For us was like, what? You're questioning him for that? This just shows that rule of law, 1 + 1 = 2, no matter who you are, it will never equal 3 or 1.5. And that is something that people respect, by the way, regardless of what they think. Yes, they feel sometimes America helps Israel more than they help the others. But my answer to that is, well, actually, the money will not go into anybody's pocket. The money will go into good things. Even if they did. Yes. Yeah. Okay. I mean, it's a country that because they are more committed to their cause, they're using the money the right way. America helped other countries. Do you blame Israelis for using the money the right way? No, you blame the others for using it the wrong way. Israel was not the only country that got help from America once upon a time. No.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I mean. When we respect this, we respect, but unfortunately, it is changing. I would say the feeling towards Israelis. What has started, which was never there before, because before a Jew equaled Israeli, but now it is coming. The divide. A Jew doesn't need to be Israeli. A Jew can be from any nationality in the world, and a Jewish faith is accepted. I mean, there are Jews here that before they hid their religion. I mean, I have one of my suppliers that I've been dealing with him for the past 22 years, but the guy is Dutch and has been here since the early 70s. And Dubai is his home. He's a Dutch Jew. He doesn't say it openly, but if you ask him, he will not deny it either. I mean, if you introduce, he will not say, "My name is Jan, and I'm a Jew." Nobody does that. Okay, nobody does that. But if you ask him, he will answer, and he's been living here. And there are a lot of examples like him here. So it's the acceptance of the Jews to live among us is the first step, in my opinion.
It's interesting. Yeah, wow. So you've actually preempted my next question, because recently you tweeted about how you went to a kosher restaurant over there in Dubai. And yes, you said, if I'm not mistaken, that you had the best briskets you've ever tasted, amongst barekas and all sorts of other stuff.
Yes.
Wow. Like, I read this and I'm like, wow, you have a kosher restaurant. Is the Jewish community that big over there? What's the Jewish community like?
I don't have a number, but we have a lot of Australians, Australians.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. A lot of Australians in Dubai, a lot of South Africans and Europeans that might be Jewish here and I think they might go vegetarian if they don't find kosher. So right. I think Ellie, who owns that restaurant, she's a brilliant cook and a brilliant person. She found this business. She found this niche, and she serves the Jewish community. I mean, we have a synagogue in Dubai. We have a synagogue in Abu Dhabi. I mean, obviously, we will build a synagogue or have a synagogue if we have people that believe in the Jewish faith. So I don't have a number for you, but it is growing, and slowly now they are speaking up.
Yeah, so actually it's funny because it's been in the news recently. Now, Thani, I don't know if you know this, but I'm telling you now. Yeah. Us Jews have a bit of a reputation for arguing amongst ourselves. Because we're, inquisitive people. And we tend to argue amongst ourselves a lot.
I think this is one of the common things we have from the Abrahamic faith.
I think you and me, we agree way more than me and a lot of my Jewish brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
It's just a thing, and it's an endearing quality. But it's funny because I just read an article right before we started speaking. And listen to this, it's crazy funny. So actually in the UAE, so there's now, I'll back up a little bit. There's a famous Jewish joke, and it's about a guy who gets stranded on a desert island, and he builds two synagogues. He builds a synagogue that he goes to, but he also builds a synagogue that he doesn't go to.
Yeah, okay.
If you understand the meaning.
Yeah.
It has to be the breakaway synagogue.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
exactly.
So actually, believe it or not, apparently in the United Arab Emirates, there's now a breakaway synagogue, which is causing controversy because you've got, as you said, the established synagogue, which actually, I think the husband of Eli, who runs the kosher restaurant that you tweeted about, he's on the board of that synagogue. He's very involved in that synagogue. But then you have a Chabad guy, Chabad Lubavitch. I think you know what I'm talking about. So there was a Chabad rabbi that went to that synagogue, but now he's established a new synagogue, which is what Chabad do. They like to have outreach and they like to go to other places. But the news story that I saw, I think on the Times of Israel, was that this Chabad rabbi posted about the community, according, his synagogue, on social media. But the UAE authorities told him to take down the tweets and the posts. Because there was like a bit of friction between the established community and this new community. Is this funny? Because I've learned a bit more. The fact that this is happening, I mean, it sounds crazy and a bit maybe annoying to some people, but it shows that the Jewish community is in a healthily dysfunctional state, if you know what I mean.
Yes, I understand. I mean, they feel comfortable to be dysfunctional in a country which is not pro or officially we don't recognize each other officially.
Right.
Okay, so yes, I mean, and I would say if I will be again, why the authorities might have requested him to bring down the tweet, I feel it is because they did not want the Jews to get a bad image in this country. To say, okay, they're just opening up and now they're fighting here. They're fighting here, and I think they wanted to pass the best image they can, because again, we have to work on what people think here in this country, because again, a lot of what was in the media, Al Jazeera. Until our problem with Qatar, Al Jazeera was one of the main news. I mean, if somebody wanted news, went to Al Jazeera. And people here have to be less hostile. And unfortunately, even with a lot of my friends, they feel, okay, we don't want to fight, but I don't want to be friends. And I say, okay, at least not wanting to fight is a victory. Let me take that. Okay, let me take that, and now let us work on being friends. And I sometimes tell them, okay, what if you find an Israeli who believes like you, believes that, okay, let us not fight and not want to be friends. What if you guys talk and find out what is in common with each other? Maybe, okay, don't be friends, but at least be an acquaintance to each other. If you have a question about the Jewish faith or anything, question about Israel, you can ask him, and vice versa. And I'm working on it from my side, and I think the government in a way might be working on it also, because if the governments only sign peace, I mean, I would say if you go to Jordan or Egypt, the two countries that have signed peace with Israel, the government has signed peace, but if you go down with the people, they're still hostile. They're still hostile. If you go to the streets, if you go to the villages, they still consider Israel hostile. They still have not forgotten the 6-day war. They still, and I think the governments have to work on it. If the government work on signing peace with Israel and not working on their own people, this peace will not have any meaning. You should be comfortable if you get lost in Dubai in an alley, that you will be able to go back to your hotel or to your home peacefully and easily, without hiding your identity. Your identity. I would say it's step by step in the Gulf. It's happening step by step, and it might take some time, but I think it's a step towards the right direction. In my opinion.
Sounds optimistic.
Yeah, I have to be optimistic.
Yeah, I love it. And you've actually spoken to me on a number of occasions of your desire to actually come to Israel.
Yes.
Do you have any current plans? I mean, obviously after the Corona apocalypse, do you have any current plans to come to Israel?
I would love to. Of course, to come to Israel. Of course, I hope that our countries recognize each other. But I would love to come to Israel. I would love to I mean, we always see the beautiful beaches of Tel Aviv. I would love to go to Jerusalem and pray in the Al-Aqsa Mosque. And also, I know it's the Temple Mount to the Jews. And you know, these days we find pictures. Now, I know what I will say might be controversial to a lot of Muslims, but if you saw, there was few pictures on Twitter of a Muslim praying next to a Jew.
Right.
Yes.
It was the Magen David Adom responders, I believe. If we're thinking of the right one, yeah.
Yes, and also I saw a picture. I think they were in one of the in the prayer rooms in one of the airports.
Ben Gurion Airport. Yes.
Yes. I mean, why can't we on Al-Aqsa and Temple Mount? Why can't you pray and I pray next to each other?
Good question. Good question.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why can't we pray next to each other? Now, I know in the Muslim faith, you say, no, the mosques have to be only for Muslims. I understand that. Okay. And I know where it comes from. But I think to at least to achieve peace, because Jerusalem will always be the problem between the three faiths. We like it or not, all through history it was, and it will be as long as these three religions. I mean, I would say this is something that we don't agree on, all three religions. Everybody wants it. Everybody wants it. So I say, let all of us share it. Let all of us share it. Let's all pray next to each other. And I think this will bring us closer to each other. A Muslim, I mean, a person who's faithful to his religion, regardless what religion, he's very close to the person who's faithful to another religion. They're not enemies. On the contrary, they worship God, Jehovah, Allah in a different way, but they're worshiping the same. Okay, it's very difficult in English to say, but worshiping the same.
No, it's completely clear. And I mean, the fact that we have this, the common ground that we have is a very strong common ground that we should focus on. And that's been your message all along. And it's something I love the message, and I hope more and more people hear it and take heed of it. I certainly do. And I love the idea that we could pray together in the holy city. It's an amazing thought, and please God, inshallah, we'll see it in our lifetimes.
I hope so. I hope so. And also, one of the reasons I wanted to do this interview is because I know a lot of your audience are from Israel, and I want them to see. I mean, not all of us are bad. Not all of us are bad, and some of us are pro peace, and some of us want peace, and I might need we might need your help to bring both closer to each other.
Yes.
And we do not want. I mean, I don't know if you saw the movie. I know it was dramatic, Sadat, which was done by the American TVs in the 80s, that Sadat thought about peace when he lost his brother in the Yom Kippur War. Okay, regardless if that was true or not. But let me take that incident from that movie. Do we need to sign pro-peace after we lose a loved one? Why can't we sign peace with the loved ones with us?
Wow, that's a powerful message, and I completely agree. And I pray to God that there are more and more people. I know there are more and more people like you, for sure, but not everyone is willing to speak up like you are in your name proudly. And it's something that, you know, this is why we've been talking for 10 years, because I love genuine people. You're a man of faith, I'm a man of faith, but we're open-minded, we're able and not scared to talk about different issues. We don't all have to agree with each other. And I think that's a problem now. We're seeing that, you know, with all the craziness going on in the world, a lot of people shut the other down because they've got a different opinion. But why should we be afraid of different opinions? If you're proud of your opinion, if you're strong in your opinion, get the other point of view. Listen, you don't have anything to worry about, right? I mean, you can only grow as a person to hear a different point of view. And I've definitely, Thani, I mean it sincerely, with our friendship, I've definitely learned a lot. I had views which were not accurate, entirely accurate. And by virtue of our friendship, I see it as a positive thing that I'm able to see the world in a more holistic and more accurate way. And it's not something that actually scares me. It's something that I welcome. And at the same time, we have so much more in common than we have, which divides us. And we actually don't have much that divides us. Maybe there's some sporting teams that we don't agree on, but I think we can get over that.
Don't tell me you're a Tottenham fan. Don't tell me you're a Tottenham fan. Don't tell me you're a Tottenham fan.
I'm not so into the English Premier League, but I'm definitely not a Tottenham fan if I was. But okay, we can talk about that another time.
No, because I'm an Arsenal fan, and Arsenal and Tottenham, they are against, they are rivals. So that's why I said, don't tell me you're a Tottenham fan.
See, this is what could divide us right now.
Yeah.
But listen, we definitely have to do this again. I mean, there's so much we could talk about, and we've only, I really wanted this to just be about introducing yourself, getting an idea of what views are like over there. But like, if people like this, then it could be cool to do this on those sort of regular basis to talk about some issues, to get different points of view. I think this can, slowly we can build. I mean, obviously we have the trust between us, you and me, but the respective audiences can we can more humanize each other and, become, let's say, closer with each other. And, I believe the key to peace is on the individual basis. You can't leave it to governments. I believe it's a grassroots thing. And I think 100%. By having these dialogues, we're advancing the cause. And I think you and me, we both want peace. Maybe we feel there are different ways to get there. I'm still thinking about things. I don't have all the answers. You probably don't have all the answers. But by speaking with each other, I believe we can hopefully get to the answers.
No, because I think the more we speak with each other, we can clear this, I would say, the stereotypes that we have of each other. I mean, as you said, all of the Israelis are not alike. All of the Arabs and Muslims are not alike. I mean, especially if you think about Arabs, we are from the ocean to the Gulf. The Muslim in Morocco and a Muslim in Oman, they are not exactly the same. And I think we have a lot of stereotypes of each other, and we need to clear it out and say, okay, some of them, if it's true, it's true. I mean, call a spade a spade. If something we do is bad, say yes, we do it as bad, and I don't understand why. And maybe one day I will. We have to say it. But I have two questions to you, if you don't mind.
Of course.
Number one, what was whom did I tweet? I'm sorry, whom did I choose for my autograph 10 years ago?
Oh, I didn't see that. I didn't see who you chose. You asked me the question. I don't think you gave me an answer.
No, because this is always interesting. Because I love history. I love history. I mean, I would say, it's one of the not only historians, not only people of their religion, but I feel Abraham was for me. But I did not know 10 years. I would have been interested to see 10 years. Whom did I say?
Well, I don't know. I don't know who you said, but like, and you're not asking me this, but I'm going to volunteer the answer. So you took Abraham. Yes. I definitely agree with that. But a more modern person, I would actually like the autograph of Menachem Begin, who I believe was one of Israel's, if not Israel's best prime minister, because he was actually Likud. The Likud are the more right-wing party, but if you look into history, the right-wing Likud party, the ones who were signing the peace treaties. Yes. And he was a proud Jew who, he gave up a lot. And it might have been against his nature. I've read a lot of autobiographies of Menachem Begin, and I really, really admire him. But he's a peacemaker as much as he's a strong guy. And I admire that. That's someone who knows how to defend their people and, stand for their security, but at the same time realizes the realpolitik, as it were, and saw that the need of the time was to make peace with Egypt. And, while Egypt and Israel don't have the warmest peace, you were discussing before about warm peace and making things warmer on the streets. we're not quite there yet overall, but you would have to say that there's been a huge benefit to this peace treaty. And Menachem Begin, he would be the one that I would want the autograph for.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's very interesting, because I've read a lot about Menachem Begin, and I felt, yes, for a peace, I mean, the little I know about Israeli politics, but for a peace to stand strong in Israel, you need a Likud. I mean, if a Likud signs it, then the others will just follow. Others, but if a Labour sign it, then the Likud might not accept it, or it might be a short-lived peace.
Right.
Now the second question I will ask you, if you don't mind, and I have my opinion and you have your opinion, but it's very interesting for me. Now, how do you see mankind, when I use mankind, that all of us can solve the Palestinian issue, the Palestinian problem, the Palestinians that are in Lebanon, the Palestinians that are in West Bank and Gaza? Just what is your opinion?
Well, you're not making, this wasn't a softball question, by the way.
I know. I wanted at the end to throw a curved ball.
Yeah, well, we're almost at the end of this, so I'll have to keep it brief, but maybe we can pursue it in a further interview for sure. Look, first of all, that question encompasses a lot of issues. You've got the issue of how the Palestinian Arabs are seen in the Arab world, the whole refugee status. And I believe that, first and foremost, there shouldn't be any Palestinian Arab refugees in the world. If you look at how Israel has brought in Jews from all over the world into this tiny slither of land, you understand the way that I think the Arab and Muslim world should be treating the Palestinian Arabs. They should be absorbed, the ones who are refugees, and I'm not going to go now into you mentioned it a bit before, are these refugees? And, some of them fled. It's not true that that they were all pushed out like the prevalent narrative that you were fed as a child, for sure not. There were some that were, because it's war, but there were many that thought they were going to come back because the Arab leaders said, listen, let's destroy Israel, this new state, and then you'll come back after we've won the war. And why not, right? It looked like they should win the war. They had the bigger armies. And so it's a complex issue. But I do believe that UNRWA and the people that are keeping this Palestinian refugee issue alive are an impediment to peace. If the Arab nations would absorb, and there's a lot to go around, right? And treat them as first-class citizens, because, there are Palestinians who are treated, there's apartheid actually in Arab and Muslim countries. We're accused of apartheid, but look at the Israeli Arabs. They're thriving more or less. I mean, they say more or less because I'm not going to say that everything's perfect. Like any society, there's some discriminatory attitudes on an individual basis, and they need, I believe, I'm a huge advocate for Israeli Arab rights. They should be treated like us in the full sense, but there's no apartheid. That's garbage. So that's what I'm saying. I think as a starting point, we shouldn't keep up this pretense of the Palestinian refugee who's going to return. Because the right to return is basically just code for the demographic destruction of the land of Israel, the state of Israel. And you have to put that aside. Come on. The Arabs that accepted Israel, they live amongst us and they have voting rights. It's a democracy, as you said. So that's a starting point. The other aspect of it, and again, I'm simplifying my answer because, this could be hours of discussion.
I know.
Maybe we'll do another session where we discuss this together.
Only this, yes.
Yeah, but I think that I mean that's I actually
yes.
I probably don't have time to go into all of it.
Definitely. I mean, sorry, it's a tough question, but the reason I brought it up, I mean, to be honest, is that I think this is something that, while this is a difference between us, but since I'm not a Palestinian, I can have an opinion of what we should do, which is very close to yours. But the question is, will they accept that?
Yeah.
Will the Palestinians who are refugees, will they accept that? Some of them are so desperate, they will say yes. Some of them actually want to go back. And
when you give them false hope, I think it just perpetuates the issue. But I now remember what I was going to say. The other aspect is, and it's a nice tie into everything, grassroots. So you need the popular street to accept certain things, and by working just with governments, intransigent governments and leaders, corrupt leaders, you don't get anywhere. But I think by having this sort of dialogue, befriending each other, talking about things, having a mutual respect, I'm not saying that's going to solve all the world's problems and create peace, but it sure as hell ain't a bad start.
And to be honest, I will just, because I know we are reaching the end, but my opinion, I will go back to what Sadat, and I've told a lot of the Arabs that, but I will go back to what Sadat said to his own parliament. Israel is a fact. Israel is a fact, and let's learn to live with that fact. And living with that fact does not mean live in hostility. On the contrary,
Amen.
on the contrary, Israel is a fact. Yes, the people with the Jewish faith lived on that land years ago. They have the right to live wherever they want. If they choose that land, yes, wherever they want. And also the Palestinians, in my opinion, now here we might be different. Yes, if they want to be Lebanese, because some of them are in Lebanon or in Jordan, if they want to be in Lebanon or in Jordan, ahlan wa sahlan. And if they want to go back, maybe not to their homes, but it is the responsibility of both the Arab and the Israeli nation to find a just solution that is comfortable with all. Let's build a new city in the Nakab Desert. Empty now.
Yes.
Let's empty now. Let's build a new city.
There's enough room. There's enough room
Exactly.
for both. Yes.
Yes, and to be honest, I remember I told you I want pro-peace. I want it to be one country, two, I mean one country, two country, three country, but I want pro-peace. I would love my dream utopia is to be one country, and the Arabs and the Palestinians and the Israelis are living peacefully with each other. Everybody have their own rights. And of course, I know the Israelis are afraid of the demographic because Palestinians 16, 18, 19 kids. Okay, but when education comes in, when education kicks in and living becomes expensive, you can't afford 16 kids.
Right.
But in my opinion, I think they should live with, we should aim for peace no matter what's the cost.
We agree on that. And
yes.
Look, I will have to leave it there because I mean, you and me, we could talk for hours, and you know what, we'll do this again. We'll do this again. And not only that, I would love for us to do this again in future, also in person, here in Israel, over some pita bread and hummus, maybe some brisket.
Of course, or maybe you come to Dubai, and we can give you our machbous, which is chicken and rice. I'll make sure it's kosher.
Awesome.
Okay.
I love it.
We can share our food, our cultures, our kids to be friends, our kids to be in touch with each other, and as we said, amen to peace. Amen.
Listen, Achi, I love you. You're more people like you in the world, please. If there's more people like you, I think peace is very much in the card. So
thank you, David.
Thank you so much for joining me today. We'll do it again.
Thank you very much.
Take care, my friend.
Thank you. And I'm sorry for the curved ball, but I also, the reason I meant to say it is that we might have a difference of opinion in there. Okay, but I am your brother. Amen. You are my brother. Yes. Yeah. I love you, my brother. And thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you very much. Thank you. Take care. Have a great day. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.